Hello, this is Mike Morris, and welcome to my first podcast here on the Mike Morris Hour. Are you thirsty for answers? Follow my podcasts now via your favorite podcast provider, and subscribe to our YouTube channel starting June 30th. That would notify you of newly published shows that will include an assortment of interesting material, including surprise guests, and a series of topics ranging from possible synthetic viruses to elusive creatures in nature, from Are We Alone to Will AI Ever Leave Us Alone? If you want to get down and dirty and think you'd be a great resource guest or co-host, or have a story to tell, please reply using my contact form at themikemorrishour.com. So enjoy a new show each week and kick back with a cold one, a glass of fine wine, or a juice box. It's your choice. Are you thirsty for answers? I wanted my first show to be just as interesting and as positive as the rest of the programs I've got lined up. But considering new information coming out about COVID-19 and the barrage of information coming from various experts from around the world, people have been getting conflicting information about this virus. So I thought it best that we include, along with my regular scheduled program, a series of occasional episodes, this being episode 1 related to the virus. So be sure to follow or subscribe so you'll be notified as soon as the new information comes available, along with my other interesting shows. So before we start, just a short clip from my sponsor.
Hello, everybody. This is your buddy, Cream of Some Young Guy here, giving you a shout out on my new restaurant called Wuhan Buffet. Bats. Yep, it's what's for dinner. We have 2 new stay-at-home specials for you. Your choice of bat stew with rice or sauce stew with pork. Yes, very delicious. We are located on the corner of Summit Tower Ridge and Dev Valley. So come see us, okay? Again, this is your buddy, Cream of Some Young Guy, saying, see you later, alligator. Oh, that reminds me, we have some alligator stew for you. Bye for now. Remember, bats, it's what's for dinner.
Okay, people, without further delay, let's start this episode of the Mike Morris Hour entitled COVID-19 Hunting the CCP Virus Plus, Series 1. Now that many states and provinces are phasing into opening up, and we are all aware there may be flare-ups and a possible second wave on the horizon, we're at least a little ease having some information on how to work with this thing and how to prepare for it, or do we? In order to properly prepare for this virus, both we and scientists need to know everything we can about this virus so they can develop viable vaccines, drugs, countermeasures, etc. So knowing exactly where this came from and or how and where it may have been developed is vitally important. While most of us are busy now, or will soon be getting back to work, this virus hasn't slept, and it will never sleep. There's no doubt this virus is a major concern. But is it the COVID-19 infectious virus itself we need to be giving the priority of our attention to? Or the vile entity responsible for intentionally or unintentionally dishing this out to the world? Of course, you guessed it. The big monster in the room at this time is not so much the COVID-19 virus, but what some are rightfully naming the CCP plus virus. That is the Chinese Communist Party virus, plus its obvious sinister plan in furthering global domination. Info about COVID-19, where it came from, how it kills, how it's transmitted, detected, cured, defeated, and retained, and may continue to change the more we know about this virus. And unfortunately, the more it knows about us. There's no secret this virus has mutated, and like many other viruses, may continue to do so over time. The question is, how quickly may this happen? While dealing with this virus, we must remain optimistic and keep in mind that as we learn more about this virus and ourselves, that throughout medical history, many new drugs and cures have been intentionally and accidentally developed while conducting research, searching for vaccines for other cures. These findings for vaccines or cures of other viruses. These findings in the past have over time saved lives many times over than the original infliction or disease. So as we go forward, let's keep that in mind and remain optimistic while dealing with this virus. Now, the CCP has just recently admitted the COVID-19 virus that may have started the pandemic did not come from the food markets in Wuhan, China. Of course, there seems to be no more talk from China about the so-called U.S. soldier they claimed a month ago that brought the virus. Recently, China's top epidemiologist, W.H.O, who is the director of the CDC in China, has admitted no viruses were detected in animal samples. He said they were found only in environmental samples, including sewage, meaning the virus had existed long before. Now, this was after they claimed they did an extensive search and cleaning of those markets. Okay, now remember, it was only a couple weeks ago that the director of Wuhan Institute of Virology made a statement that the institute had never had COVID-19 corona-like bat-like viruses in its labs. It's also important to remember that from the first week, China admitted there was a contagious virus unleashed. They also made a statement that all of its COVID-19 related viruses had been destroyed. It would be nice to know how they destroyed them. Okay, people. Now we need to stop here a second to maintain focus about China's public statements regarding this deadly virus. First, they claimed W.H.O, or W.H.O is making it up, that the virus was not contagious to humans. Then they claimed they were not aware of it being a concern until mid-January, even though the CIA had satellite images showing unusual activity around that lab in mid-October, as far back as mid-October, with no employee vehicles, which was usual, around that building, and only emergency vehicles. So that's going to be interesting when they look into that even further, what comes out of that one. Why were all those emergency vehicles around that lab at that particular time? A recent story from the Associated Press claims that WHO knew that China was lying and knew the virus was seriously contagious and was unleashed 6 days earlier than China stated it was. Then they claimed the virus was not from China, that a U.S. soldier brought it in. Then they claimed that all of the COVID-19 related bat viruses were destroyed. Then they said they never had any COVID-19 bat-related viruses in the lab. Now, you will soon hear that a top scientist nicknamed Batwoman at that lab had publicly announced her findings in a published scientific document that she was able to get a SARS-2 bat-like virus to infiltrate a human cell. Now, at this point, I'm sure many of you feel the way I do about the information coming from China. It just, it seemed it's all unreliable, misconstrued, or non-existent. I have a great respect and admiration for the Chinese people and their culture, but the CCP government makes them look ridiculous and is disrespectful to them as a people. The world needs and demands and deserves answers. Now. All the time China was making these statements, the director of W.H.O, Dr. Tedros, was claiming China's actions were transparent and heroic. Oh, boy, what a kiss ass. Someone needs to audit that guy's financial accounts. Another scientist, Nikolai Petrovsky, it's got a Russian name, but he's associated with the Australian scientific team. Nikolai Petrovsky, the vaccine researcher who had an Australian team, says the COVID-19 virus samples that they studied was not typical of a normal zoonotic infection and contained a spike protein that would bind efficiently to cells in several human tissues. increasing infectivity not found in most similar coronaviruses. Due to its mutation, it is considered to be an unstable virus, making it, of course, possibly more difficult to find vaccines, but like other flu-like viruses, may need vaccines developed as it mutates. Now, there very well can be many variations of this virus. Since scientists work with different variations when looking for vulnerabilities or to find possible vaccines, so they did find strains of that virus in what may have been the same sewage pipelines of the lab. But for now, a short word from our sponsor.
Hello, welcome to Father O'Reilly's online public confessions. This is where I read the email that gets sent to me, asking me the questions about some of the things I need to do as a priest. Let's answer an email here I have from a letter from Marvin Bagelstein. He says, Father, tell me, how do you give an atheist their last rites? What do you say to them? Boy, Marvin, that's a good question. Because, from time to time, I do come across a fellow or two who's an atheist. And it's my job as a man of the cloth to give him his last rites. So, I tell you what I do, Marvin. I ask them to gently place their hands behind their neck and then slowly raise their legs over their heads. And then I get close and I whisper in their ear to kiss your sorry ass goodbye. You're going straight to hell, you son of a bitch. That's what I tell them, Marvin. Okay. I got time for one last question from a gentleman named Harry Quint. Okay. Harry says, Father, how come nuns and sisters can't give confession? I say, actually, what a coincidence you asked me that, Harry. We are presently running a pilot program, testing this as I speak. We now have Sister Mary Motherfucker in the next room. Let's see how she's doing. Let's listen in, shall we?
Oh, sir, can't you see that?
Could you please just let me? This is...
We're all sinners.
Okay.
He's not going to force you to do it.
You're sinning right now.
No, I'm not, motherfucker. You fucking accuser. Get the fuck out of here, you fucking accuser. You motherfucker.
Oh, that doesn't seem like it's doing very well. Oh, saints preserve us. Not good at all. I need to pick me up. To the teeth, past the gums. Look out, Tommy, here it comes. May you be in heaven an hour before the devil knows you're dead. Just what I needed. Okay, God bless you all. No more time. And get your asses back to church.
Now, there may be many variations of this virus, since scientists work with many different variations when looking for vulnerabilities or to find a possible vaccine. So if they did find strains of that virus in what may be the same sewage pipelines of the lab where it escaped, there could be various strains unleashed to the world, possibly needing various vaccines needed to deal with them. At this point, I'd like to reference a documentary entitled Tracking Down the Origin of the CCP Wuhan Virus by Joshua Phillip. It's presently available on YouTube via the Crossroads channel. I highly recommend it. In Mr. Phillip's story, entitled Tracking Down the Origin of the Wuhan Virus, he presents what he calls scientific data showing documents that were originally published online from that website representing that lab for peer review by the lab in Wuhan Institute of Virology, stating how the scientists at that lab succeeded in altering or manipulating a corona SARS-2-like virus so it can penetrate human cells. These scientific documents were published by the scientists several months before we believe the pandemic started. These documents in question have been since removed from the lab's website. They were removed about the time of the outbreak, or right before, but not before they were copied by other scientists and journalists from around the world. Many of those published documents were provided by that China bat virus expert Shi Zhengli, known to lay people as the Batwoman, who I mentioned earlier, who is a Chinese virologist who researches SARS-like corona bat-like viruses. She directs the Center for Emerging Infectious Diseases at the Wuhan Institute of Virology, the same biosafety lab located in a district of Wuhan. This lab is blocks away from the same wild food markets where the virus was first thought to have originated from, and it may very well share the same sewage pipelines where the Chinese officials have recently publicly claimed they found strains of the corona-like virus in both environmental and sewage areas around the same food markets. Okay, so let's keep that in mind. At this stage, anyone claiming this virus could not have been fabricated, altered, unleashed, intentionally or unintentionally, is misinformed, uninformed, foolish, or lying. In order to help develop viable vaccines, knowing its makeup and its possible variants, again, is crucial. Now, on our home front, the recommended PPEs, personal protection equipment, seems to be changing every few weeks. Many doctors are recommending wearing masks, gloves, and protective eyewear, along with washing your hands with sanitizer. I have some personal recommendations that most of you are probably all aware of. And, of course, I am not an expert, but some food for thought. If you think I sound paranoid, I recommend it's better safe than sorry. Some things to remember, of course, as you know, wearing the gloves is important. The N95 masks, there are several people, and doctors included, that recommend wearing eye protection as well. Also, in picking up your mail, well advised by some to wear your gloves, your mask, when picking up your mail, even eyewear if you believe you need it. Pick up your mail from the box, walk it straight to the garbage can, immediately throw out any third-class mail. And as far as magazines that are wrapped in plastic, take those out of the plastic, keep those, and it's up to you. And, of course, other mail, open up the mail, discard the letter. Don't forget, a lot of people still lick their stamps and they lick their envelopes, okay? And, of course, in processing the mail itself, it's been handled by so many different people, okay? So that's important to remember. Check out the CDC website. Who knows? Some of us may soon find ourselves wearing hazmat-like suits, like those new astronaut suits worn by Bob Behnken and Doug Hurley, who wore those in the SpaceX Crew Dragon capsule. Or we may end up like Bubble Boy. I don't know if you've ever seen a movie or in Seinfeld, the big Bubble Boy outfit. I've been seeing all kinds of custom-made masks on the web. I'd be careful of those. I even saw one that resembled the alien spider creature from the movie Aliens. Boy, can you imagine walking around wearing that thing strapped around your face and neck? Boy, people wouldn't come within a mile of you, much less 6 feet, you know? And as far as walking up, no seats available on a crowded bus or train, I guarantee you walk on wearing one of those things, and there'll be plenty of seats available. As I'm sure we are all experiencing an overwhelming amount of anxiety. So forgive me and believe me when I say this. I do not want to offend anyone and keep you all in my prayers. I know many of you have or know someone who's been affected by this virus. So have I. I'm really excited on a number of podcasts and series starting next week called Elusive Creatures in Nature, and will be of interest to all animal, wild, and domestic lovers, hunters, hikers, campers, runners, and nature seekers. So basically anyone who has animals for pets or encounters them in a natural environment. So don't miss this one. We've come to the end of the first episode of the COVID-19 CCP Plus virus series. I hope you have clicked the button below so you won't miss the following episodes of this series and others. So goodbye for now, stay safe, and please share my podcast series with your friends and family. Thanks for listening, and God bless.